Hello, my dear friends. I'm so glad you're here. If you're watching this video, please like and subscribe to my channel and tell me in the comments where you're listening to my story from. I want to know how far it's traveled. Aunt Glorinia, we've decided you don't need to come to Christmas dinner this year. We'll just order catering. Those words hit me like a sledgehammer to the chest on December 20th, delivered by my nephew Carlos through a cold text message. After 43 years of cooking Christmas dinner for this family, 43 years of getting up at 4 a.m. to prepare the turkey, the stuffing, the traditional Portuguese rice, the homemade desserts that took me 3 days to make, 43 years of spending my Social Security money on ingredients because family comes first, while they complained my food was too salty or not seasoned enough. I stood in my small kitchen, phone trembling in my weathered hands, staring at those words on the screen. The same kitchen where I tested every recipe, where I cried over burned batches until I perfected each dish, where I'd packed leftovers in containers I never got back because my family was too busy to return them. But here's what they didn't know about their 70-year-old aunt who they thought was just a convenient cook. I had been documenting everything. Every grocery receipt, every thank you message I never received, every photo of my beautiful spreads that they posted on social media without crediting me, every slight, every dismissal, every moment they made me feel invisible. You see, my story isn't just about being discarded like yesterday's newspaper. It's about how a woman they underestimated turned their cruelest Christmas into the most viral holiday story of the year. It's about how their attempt to silence me became my loudest moment. And if you think you know how this ends, trust me, you don't. Because what happened next wasn't just revenge. It was justice served as perfectly as my Christmas dinner they'll never taste again. The smell of cinnamon and nutmeg still lingered in my kitchen from my practiced batch of cookies. Cookies I'd made for people who just told me I wasn't welcome at the table I'd been setting for nearly half a century. As I looked around at my collection of recipes, handwritten on index cards yellow with age, I realized something. They had just made the biggest mistake of their lives. Because this Christmas, they were about to discover that Aunt Glorinia wasn't just their free caterer. I was about to become their worst nightmare. Let me paint you a picture of who I really am, because my family clearly forgot somewhere along the way. My name is Gloria Santos, but everyone calls me Glorinia, Little Gloria. Though at 5'2" and carrying the wisdom of 70 years, there's nothing little about my spirit. I've been the family matriarch since my sister Maria passed 15 years ago, leaving behind her son Carlos and daughter-in-law Patricia, along with their 3 children, who I helped raise. When Maria died, I sold my little house and moved closer to help with the kids. Carlos was drowning in grief and debt. Patricia was overwhelmed with a newborn and 2 toddlers. I became their lifeline. I cooked, cleaned, babysat without payment, used my savings to help with their mortgage when Carlos lost his job in 2015. For 15 years, I was a reliable aunt, the one who showed up with homemade soup when someone was sick, who babysat on date nights, who never missed a birthday or graduation. I turned my tiny apartment into a second kitchen, buying extra equipment, so I could prepare meals for their family of 5 plus myself. Every holiday centered around my cooking. Easter, Thanksgiving, birthdays, graduations, Glorinia's food was a star. I'd arrive at 6 a.m. to start preparations, work until midnight cleaning up, then drive home exhausted, but happy because family is everything, right? The grandchildren, Sophia, Miguel, and little Anna, they adored me. I taught Sophia how to fold pastillas, show Miguel how to season rice properly, let Anna crack eggs for the Christmas cookies. Those children were my joy, my purpose. But slowly, things changed. It started small. Patricia would sigh when I offered suggestions about seasoning. Carlos would joke about Aunt Glorinia's old-fashioned ways when I suggested using fresh ingredients instead of pre-made sauces. The grandchildren, now teenagers, became too busy with their phones to help in the kitchen. Last Christmas, I caught Patricia rolling her eyes when I mentioned needing help carrying the heavy pots from my car. "Maybe we should just simplify things next year," she whispered to Carlos, not knowing I have excellent hearing despite my age. But I brushed it off. Family goes through phases, I told myself. They love my food. They just don't know how to express gratitude. I was so wrong. The signs were all there, scattered like breadcrumbs I was too heartbroken to follow. The way they'd post pictures of my elaborate spreads on Facebook, without tagging me. How they'd invite neighbors to taste their cooking. The conversations that stopped when I entered rooms. I should have seen it coming when Patricia asked me last month how much I typically spent on Christmas ingredients. Not offering to help pay, just curious about the cost. When I told her around $400 for everything, including special imported ingredients, she just nodded thoughtfully. Now I understand that nod. She was calculating how much they'd save by cutting me out. After that text message destroyed my Christmas spirit, I did something I'd never done before. I got angry. Not sad, not hurt, furious. And when a 70-year-old Portuguese woman gets angry, she gets methodical. I spent the next 2 days going through everything. Every text message, every email, every photo on social media. What I discovered made my blood boil. First, I found Patricia's Pinterest board titled Easy Holiday Catering. She'd been planning this for months, saving links to local restaurants that offered Christmas dinner packages. The comment on her post revealed everything. So much easier than cooking. And finally, no more kitchen stress. Kitchen stress? I did all the work. Then I discovered Carlos had been telling his co-workers for weeks about their new Christmas tradition of ordering from that fancy Brazilian restaurant downtown. He even joked about how they were upgrading their meal this year. Upgrading. From my homemade food that I pour my heart into. From recipes passed down through 3 generations. I screenshot everything. Next, I went through my bank statements. This hurt the most. Over the past 5 years, I'd spent $2,347 on Christmas dinners alone, not counting other holidays, birthday cakes, or the countless meals I prepared when they were too busy to cook. I'd use my Social Security money, my small savings from my years working as a seamstress. But the real knife twist came when I checked their social media more carefully. Last year's Christmas photos showed my beautiful spread. My perfectly golden turkey, my grandmother's stuffing recipe, my handmade ravioli that took 8 hours to prepare. Patricia had posted with the caption, "Blessed to have such a wonderful family Christmas." Hashtag home cooking, hashtag family traditions, hashtag love my life. 600 likes. Dozens of comments praising her cooking skills. Not one mention of me. I scrolled further back. Every holiday for 5 years, the same thing. My food, their credit. My work, their praise. Then I found something that stopped me cold. A group text between Patricia, Carlos, and his sister Lucia from last week. They'd excluded me from the group, but Carlos had accidentally forwarded one message to me before deleting it. Patricia, honestly, I'm exhausted just thinking about pretending to be grateful for Gloria's dry turkey again. And she hovers in the kitchen like we're incompetent. Carlos, the kids barely eat her food anymore anyway. They prefer normal American food. Lucia, maybe it's time for a change. She's getting too old for all that cooking. Too old. Dry turkey. Hovering. My hands shook as I screenshot that too. But I wasn't done investigating. I called my neighbor Mrs. Rodriguez, who cleans houses for wealthy families. "Gloria, honey," she said, "didn't you see? Patricia was bragging to everyone at the supermarket yesterday about their fancy catered Christmas. She said they were finally having a professional meal. Professional, as opposed to my amateur 43 years of experience. That night, I sat at my kitchen table surrounded by evidence of their betrayal and made a decision. They thought they were dealing with a helpless old woman they could discard when convenient. They had no idea who they were messing with. The complete truth hit me like a tsunami on December 22nd, and it was worse than I could have imagined. I was at the grocery store buying ingredients for a simple Christmas dinner for one, the most depressing shopping trip of my life, when I overheard Patricia talking loudly on her phone in the next aisle. "Oh, the catering is going to be amazing. Glazed ham, prime rib, truffle stuffing. Nothing like the bland food we usually suffer through. Cost us $800. But Carlos got that Christmas bonus, so we're splurging. The kids are so excited for real restaurant food. $800. They spent double what I used to spend on ingredients, but couldn't appreciate food made with love. But that wasn't the devastating part. And the best part? No cleanup. No Gloria hovering around criticizing how we set the table or insisting we use her ugly old serving dishes. We can finally have a peaceful Christmas without walking on eggshells around the old lady. Old lady, walking on eggshells. Around me. I steadied myself against my shopping cart. But Patricia wasn't finished destroying me. Carlos's cousin Maria is coming from Boston with her family. And honestly, we didn't want to be embarrassed by Gloria's outdated cooking in front of them. Maria is used to sophisticated food. We couldn't risk serving her Gloria's heavy Portuguese dishes that smell like garlic for days. Embarrassed by my cooking, the cooking that fed this family through good times and bad, that comforted them through illness and celebration. But the final blow came next. Between you and me, we should have done this years ago. We only kept including her because we felt sorry for her, and frankly, the free cooking saved us money. But the kids are older now. They don't need babysitting, and we can afford proper catering. Gloria, serve her purpose. Serve her purpose. I stood frozen in that grocery aisle, surrounded by Christmas shoppers, as the words repeated in my mind. 43 years of love, sacrifice, and service reduced to serving her purpose. I abandoned my cart and drove home in a daze. Once there, I called my friend Carmen, who works at the social service center where I used to volunteer. Carmen, I need you to help me with something, I said, my voice steadier than I felt. Of course, honey. What's wrong? You sound upset. I told her everything. Every detail, every betrayal, every cruel word. When I finished, there was silence. Gloria, Carmen finally said, what they've done to you is elder abuse, emotional and financial exploitation. You've been giving them money and services for years while they plan to discard you. This isn't just mean, it's legally actionable. Elder abuse. I'd never thought of it that way, but Carmen was right. I'd been exploited, manipulated, and now discarded like trash. But more importantly, Carmen continued, what they don't realize is that you have something they'll never have, a community that actually loves you. That's when I realized something that would change everything. Carlos and Patricia had made a critical error. They assumed I was alone, that I had nowhere else to go, no one else who cared. They forgot that I'd spent 15 years volunteering at the senior center, teaching cooking classes at the community college, helping neighbors, donating food to church functions. They forgot that while they were taking from me, I was giving to an entire community, a community that knew my real worth. And that community was about to teach my family a lesson they'd never forget. And you, what would you do in this person's place? I would love to hear your opinion. So please share it with me in the comments. After the shock wore off, I did something my family never expected from their simple old aunt. I made a plan, a beautiful, methodical, perfectly timed plan. First, I called Carmen back. I want to document this properly. I told her, help me understand my options. Carmen connected me with Maria Santos, coincidentally sharing my sister's name, a social worker who specialized in elder abuse cases. Maria reviewed all my evidence, the text messages, the screenshots, the bank statements showing my financial contributions, the social media posts taking credit for my work. Mrs. Santos, Maria said, you have a clear case of financial and emotional exploitation, but legal action takes time. Is there something else you want to do first? I spent December 23rd making phone calls. First, to Father Miguel at St. Anthony's Church, where I've been preparing food for community dinners for 8 years. Father, I need your help with something special, I said. I have a story to tell, and I think our community needs to hear it. Next, I called the seniors at the community center, where I taught cooking classes. Then my neighbors. Then the families whose children I had fed over the years when they couldn't afford groceries. I'm going to be alone for Christmas, I told each one. But I have an idea that might help other seniors who are facing the same thing. By December 24th, my plan was in motion. I went to the grocery store and spent $500 of my own money, more than I'd ever spent on Christmas dinner. But this time, I wasn't cooking for people who didn't appreciate me. I was cooking for a purpose. I prepared the most elaborate Christmas feast of my life. turkey with my secret herb rub, ham glazed with my grandmother's recipe, traditional Portuguese rice that takes 6 hours to make properly, homemade ravioli, fresh bread, 3 different desserts including my famous latte condensado cake. But here's the brilliant part. I filmed everything. Not just the cooking, but me talking to the camera, telling my story. Carmen's daughter, Sophia, who studies communications at the community college, helped me set up proper lighting and sound. "Hi, everyone," I said to the camera, wearing my best apron. "I'm Glorina, and I want to tell you about the Christmas nobody expected, starting with mine. I cooked for 18 hours straight, narrating my story between stirring pots and kneading dough. I talked about 43 years of Christmas mornings, about teaching my grandnieces and nephews family recipes, about the joy I found in feeding people I loved. And then I talked about the text message. After 43 years of Christmas dinners, they told me not to come. They said they'd order catering instead. I paused to wipe my eyes with my apron. The gesture natural and heartbreaking on camera. But you know what? Maybe they did me a favor. Because now I get to share my Christmas with people who actually appreciate it. The final part of my plan was pure genius. I'd invited every senior from the community center who had nowhere to go for Christmas. Mrs. Chun, whose children lived across the country. Mr. Rodriguez, whose wife had passed this year. Mrs. Jackson, whose family had also gotten too busy for her. 12 lonely seniors, plus me, gathering for Christmas dinner in the community center hall that Father Miguel had donated for the day. But I wasn't finished. The real stroke of genius was what I planned for social media. Sophia helped me create accounts on Facebook, Instagram, and TikTok. We'd post an entire Christmas dinner live, showing a room full of seniors celebrating together, enjoying a feast prepared with love and respect. We'll call it Community Christmas, Sophia suggested. And we'll use hashtags are trending. Hashtag Senior Strong, hashtag Christmas Family, hashtag Community Over Blood. The beauty of my plan wasn't just a dinner. It was a message. While my blood family was eating expensive, soulless catered food, I was creating a new family, a chosen family that valued what I offered. And I had a feeling the internet was going to love this story. Christmas morning, I woke up at 4 a.m. as I had for 43 years. But this time, instead of feeling burdened, I felt excited. Today wasn't about serving people who didn't appreciate me. Today was about showing the world what real family looks like. Christmas Day dawned crisp and clear, and I felt more energized than I had in years. This was my day. I arrived at the community center at 6 a.m. with my car packed with food, decorations, and a heart full of purpose. Sophia was already there with her camera equipment, and Father Miguel had arranged tables with borrowed linens from the church. By 10 a.m., the magic began. Mrs. Chen arrived first, carrying a small gift bag. "Gloria, dear, I brought homemade fortune cookies," she said, her eyes bright with excitement. "I haven't had anyone to make them for in 3 years." Mr. Rodriguez came next with a bouquet of flowers from his garden. "For the most beautiful cook in the city," he said with a gallant bow that made me blush. One by one, my chosen family arrived. Each person brought something. A side dish, flowers, stories, laughter. The room filled with the kind of warmth that money can't buy. Sophia filmed everything, narrating softly. This is what Christmas looks like when it's built on love instead of obligation. We served dinner at 2 p.m., the exact time my family would be eating their catered meal 15 minutes away. The irony wasn't lost on me. As my new family gathered around the table, I stood to give a blessing. But instead of the traditional prayer, I spoke from my heart. Today I learned that family isn't who shares your blood. It's who shares your table with gratitude. Thank you for showing this old woman what Christmas really means. There wasn't a dry eye in the room. But the real power of my plan activated when Sophia posted the first video online at 3 p.m. The video opened with me in my kitchen at 4 a.m., talking softly to the camera. "Today I'm cooking Christmas dinner, but not for who you might think." Then it cut to me explaining about the text message, my voice steady but my pain evident. The middle section showed the preparation, not just the food, but the love. Me teaching Mrs. Chun how to season the turkey. Mr. Rodriguez helped me set the table. Everyone laughing together in the kitchen. The finale was our dinner. 13 seniors holding hands around a beautifully set table, saying grace together, sharing stories between courses. Sophia had edited it perfectly, and with me looking directly at the camera. Sometimes the family you choose loves you better than the family you're born with. To every senior watching this who feel forgotten, you're not alone. You're wanted, you're valuable, and your recipes matter. The video was 3 minutes long. It went viral in 4 hours. By 7 p.m., it had 50,000 views. By 9 p.m., 200,000. By Christmas night, 500,000 people had watched my story. The comments were overwhelming. This made me cry happy tears. Glorinia, you're everyone's dream grandmother. Those people don't deserve your food. Drop the family recipes, Queen. This is what Christmas spirit looks like. But my favorite comment came from a user named at Chef Carlos 2024. This woman could teach professional chefs a thing or two. Her family lost a treasure. The beautiful irony? My nephew Carlos's social media handle was at Carlos 2024. He commented on my video without realizing it, praising the ant he'd discarded. By midnight, 3 local news stations had called asking for interviews. A food blogger wanted to feature my recipes. Someone started a GoFundMe to help Glorinia start her own catering business. But the sweetest revenge came at 11:47 p.m. when my phone rang. It was Sophia, my grandniece, Tia Glorinia. Her voice was small, ashamed. I saw your video. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. Mom and Dad said you were too tired to cook this year. They didn't tell us. Minha querida, I said gently, your parents made their choice. I made mine. But Tia, your Christmas looked so beautiful. Ours was just food. There was no love in it. And that's when I knew my plan had worked perfectly. December 26 brought consequences my family never anticipated. I woke to 847 missed notifications on my phone. My video had exploded overnight. 1.2 million views, 45,000 shares, and thousands of comments from people sharing their own stories of family rejection. But the real shock came from local news coverage. Channel 7's morning show featured my story as their lead piece. Local senior creates community Christmas after family exclusion goes viral. The reporter had interviewed several people from our dinner, and their words were powerful. Mrs. Chun, Gloria saved my Christmas. I was going to spend it alone watching TV and crying. Instead, I felt loved and needed. Mr. Rodriguez, this woman is a treasure. Any family that doesn't see that is blind. Father Miguel, Gloria has been the heart of our community for years. What she created yesterday shows the true spirit of Christmas. By 9 a.m., my phone was ringing nonstop. Local restaurants offer me jobs. Food bloggers wanted my recipes. A publisher interested in a cookbook deal. But the call I was waiting for came at 10:17 a.m. Aunt Gloria? Carlos's voice was tight, strained. We need to talk. Do we? I asked calmly, sipping my coffee while watching the view count climb on my video. This has gotten out of hand. People are calling us horrible names online. Patricia's crying. The kids are upset. About what exactly? About what you did. Making us look bad on the internet. Making it seem like we're terrible people. I let the silence stretch before responding. Carlos, I didn't make you look bad. I told the truth. If the truth makes you look bad, perhaps you should examine your actions. But family problems should stay private. You embarrassed us. Like you embarrassed me with that text message? Like you embarrassed me by telling people I was too old and my food was outdated? Silence. Yes, Carlos, I know about the group text. About Patricia calling my turkey dry. About you joking with your co-workers about upgrading from my cooking. How did you? Because unlike you, I pay attention to details. Unlike you, I keep records. Unlike you, I remember that family is supposed to protect each other, not exploit each other. Patricia grabbed the phone. Gloria, you're being ridiculous. We were just trying to simplify Christmas. You're too old to be cooking for so many people. Patricia, I said, my voice still calm, I cooked for 13 people yesterday. 13 seniors who appreciated every bite, who helped clean up, who treated me with respect. Age wasn't the problem. Your attitude was. But we're family. Family doesn't use people and discard them. Family doesn't take credit for someone else's work. Family doesn't mock someone behind their back, then play victim when they get caught. What do you want from us? Carlos asked, desperation creeping in. Nothing, I said simply. I want absolutely nothing from you. Come on, we can work this out. We'll invite you to New Year's. No. Easter, then. You can cook Easter dinner. No. Gloria, be reasonable. I am being reasonable. I'm reasoning that my time, energy, and love are too valuable to waste on people who don't appreciate them. The calls kept coming all day. Lucia, crying and apologizing. The grandchildren, confused and hurt, asking why I didn't tell them what was happening. Distant relatives who'd seen the video, some supportive, others accusing me of airing dirty laundry. But the call that mattered most came from Maria Santos, the social worker. Gloria, I've been getting calls all morning. 3 other seniors in town have come forward with similar stories after seeing your video. Families who exploit their elderly relatives then discard them. You started something important. That evening, Sophia, my camera operator, not my grandniece, called with incredible news. Gloria, you're not going to believe this. A production company in Los Angeles wants to option your story for a holiday movie. And Food Network wants to discuss a show about community cooking. My little Christmas dinner had become a movement, but the sweetest validation came from an unexpected source. My old neighbor, Mrs. Martinez, called to say she'd run into Patricia at the grocery store. That woman looked miserable, Mrs. Martinez reported. She tried to avoid me, but I cornered her. She admitted their Christmas was fine, but that the kids kept asking why you weren't there. Apparently, your grandnephew Miguel said the food tasted like nothing and asked when Tia Glorinia was coming back. Sometimes the best revenge is simply living well. 3 months later, I'm sitting in my new kitchen. Not the tiny apartment kitchen where I spent years cooking for people who didn't appreciate me, but a beautiful, spacious kitchen in the community center where I now work as head of their senior services program. The GoFundMe that strangers started for me raised $47,000. Combined with my savings and a small business loan, I opened Glorinia's Community Kitchen. Part cooking school, part catering service, part gathering place for seniors who need connection. We serve lunch 3 days a week for seniors, teach cooking classes on weekends, and cater events around the city. My community Christmas video has been viewed over 5 million times, and I've become something I never expected at 70, a social media influencer. But more than that, I've become free. I wake up every morning excited about my day. Yesterday, I taught Mrs. Chen's granddaughter how to make traditional Portuguese malasadas. Last week, I catered a wedding for 2 seniors from our community. Their families have rejected their late-in-life love, so we became their wedding family. The cookbook deal came through. Cooking with Love, Recipes for Building Family will be published next year, with proceeds going to combat senior isolation. 3 more community centers in neighboring cities have asked me to help them start similar programs. I'm officially booked through next Christmas. My real family, the family I chose, has grown over 100 people. We celebrate every holiday together, share recipes, support each other through difficulties, and treat each other with the respect that blood relatives should provide but often don't. As for my biological family, they've tried repeatedly to reconnect. Carlos sends texts on my birthday. Patricia comments heart emojis on my social media posts. The grandchildren, now understanding the full story, have reached out with genuine apologies. I respond politely but distantly. I've learned something valuable. Forgiveness doesn't require reconciliation. I can wish them well from afar without allowing them back into my heart. The most beautiful part of this whole experience isn't the success or the recognition. It's the letters I receive from seniors around the world who watch my video and found the courage to leave toxic family situations, start new traditions, or simply demand better treatment from people who claim to love them. One letter particularly touched me, from a 68-year-old woman in Ohio. Dear Glorinia, watching your video gave me permission to stop cooking for my daughter's family after 20 years of criticism and demands. This year, I spent Thanksgiving volunteering at a soup kitchen. It was the best Thanksgiving of my life. That's when I knew my Christmas story had served its true purpose. Not revenge, but revolution. A quiet revolution of seniors refusing to accept crumbs when we deserve the whole feast. If you like my story, you can support me by making a donation so I can write more stories. Thank you in advance. For more life stories like this, like the video and subscribe to my channel. There are many other stories waiting for you. But before you go, I want to leave you with this. If you're reading this and recognizing yourself in my story, if you're giving more than you're receiving, if you're being taken for granted by people who should treasure you, know this. You deserve better. You deserve to be celebrated, not tolerated. You deserve gratitude, not criticism. You deserve love that lifts you up, not love that uses you up. Sometimes the best thing you can do for yourself and the people who don't appreciate you is to walk away. Find your own community. Create your own family. Cook your own Christmas dinner. Trust me, it tastes better when it's seasoned with self-respect. And who knows, you might just change the world one recipe at a time. The end. Author's note. This story is dedicated to every senior who has ever felt invisible, undervalued, or taken for granted by their families. Your wisdom, your love, and your recipes matter. You matter.